and it's our very last chapter in this unit. Okay, so today we're going to read a book called Scorpion Scientist, and our learning target today is that we are going to be able to, whenever I snap, read it with me. I can read to find out how other scientists investigate questions. So by the end of today's lesson, you are going to read to find out some ways that other scientists investigate their questions. Alright? So there are many organisms that live in Greystone National Park. Alright? Not just the wolves. Now that we have explained the traits of the wolves in the park, Mark, negative dojo point. Now that we have explained the traits of the wolves in the park, the students at Greystone Elementary School, they have another organism for us to investigate. Okay? This organism is called the white-crowned sparrow. Say white-crowned sparrow. White-crowned sparrow. The students at Greystone Elementary School, they are wondering how the white-crowned sparrow, how it got its trait. Esposito noticed variation between the valley scorpion and other scorpions. These are some other scorpions that were found nearby. The question, are the valley scorpions a new species? So this is her question, and it has her question here. Are the valley scorpions a new species? So now we need to listen to see how does Esposito investigate her question. And we're going to write it down whenever we find out. Alright? This was a big question. To answer this question, Esposito had to ask some smaller questions. Esposito knew that new species of scorpions are often different from other scorpions in several ways. They have different genes, they live in separate environments, and they have different traits. Just answering one of these questions wouldn't be enough. She would need to know the answers to all of the questions to know for sure. So stop and think. Did we read something relating to our purpose?
Yes.
Yes. What did we read relating to our purpose? How does, looking back at the text, how does Esposito answer, are the valley scorpions a new species? What does she do to answer that question? Olivia? Exactly. Kiss your brain. Come kiss your brain. She asks some smaller questions. So we are going to write that in our investigation notebook. She asks some smaller questions. Olivia is kissing her brain because she used the text to see how Esposito investigates her questions. So now, just like we just did, we read and we were looking for how Esposito investigates her questions. You are going to do the same thing for the remaining questions with your partner. For a question on page 16, for a question on page 17, and a question on page 18, okay? After you find how she investigates those questions, you are going to answer the question on page 81. Do you understand? Alright, so whenever I say go, you are going to, the person with the partner with the longest hair is going to come get your book. And the person with the shortest hair is going to move their desk to their partners. Got it? Go. Remember to whisper read. Amaya.
Are the Jews the Valley Scorpions question? How many got one ball? I don't know. Come on, give it to us. Our friend's dad.
Alright, so, based on what you read, I want you to think about this. First of all, what were some ways that Esposito investigated her questions? What were some things that she did to investigate her questions? Number 2. Kenzie, what did she do to investigate her questions? Whenever she was looking at the scorpion's environment, what did she look at? Whenever she was trying to figure out about their environment, what did she look at to help her investigate her question? Whenever she was trying to see if the Valley Scorpions live in a different environment, what did she look at to help her see if this is true? She looked at maps to investigate her question. Yes. What was something else that Esposito did to investigate her questions? Faith? Unmute yourself, please.
She asked smaller questions.
She asked smaller questions, but what else did she do? For the second one, for the second question, what did she do to investigate that second question, Faith? You should be seated.
All I got to was she couldn't say that there was 8 different species from the DNA.
So she looked at the DNA, right, to help her figure it out. Did she find her answer? No. But she still needed to investigate further, right? But she looked at the DNA to help her answer that question. How else? There was one other way that she investigated her question. Aslan? Yes, she looked at extremely close-up photos of Valley Scorpions. I love how Garrett's showing the connection sign because he agreed with Aslan. He found out the same thing. That is a pattern. This pattern might be evidence that the two groups are different species. So remember, when she looked at data about many different individual scorpions, she started to see patterns. Eventually, she used patterns as evidence that the valley scorpions are a new species. So another way that we can investigate questions is by looking for patterns in data, okay? So we have all of these ideas of how we can investigate the white-crowned sparrows, right? We can investigate them by asking smaller questions. We can investigate them by looking at data. We can investigate them by looking at maps to see where they live. And we can investigate them by looking for patterns in the data, right? So in the next lesson, we are going to begin our investigation of sparrows, and we are going to look for patterns in the data to help us investigate the question from the students at Greystone Elementary School about the traits of sparrow offspring. We're going to look